This meeting to order. It's Wednesday, June 11th, 2025, and it's 10 o'clock, and we're here to discuss the potential parking lot with Joe Hill. And I'll turn it over to Joe.
Perfect.
Yep, go ahead and sit right here.
I don't know if we need to do the pledge or anything like that.
No, we did it earlier this morning.
So, obviously you guys are aware that I filed a public information request because I didn't feel that, first of all, I didn't know that the county had applied for a $50,000 grant and had also decided to put up $35,000 of county money to match that to continue this project. And so my reasoning on that public information request was because, in my thought, you certainly can't submit a request for a grant without having a plan. So my concern on that was that, as David had told us, that once the county had a plan, they would come to us and we could all discuss it before they took any action on it.
Yep.
But in fact, it appears as though the county has a plan or had some sort of plan that they use and was moving forward with it. So I filed that information, and in that request for information, there was a project schedule. One for you if you want it, one for you guys if you'd like, one for you. So that's when I decided to ask if I could be on the agenda, because there clearly is some sort of plan, and I feel that we were lied to because we were never brought in on the plan. So,
well, one of the things is my understanding of this is we were going to see what it was going to take to go through with it, and then decide. And I stated that a couple times. The last time we needed public input, and we hadn't had public input yet. So, and I think what this was, my understanding is that Commissioner Dose was going to go out and figure out what the parking lot, how we would do the parking lot, and how much it would cost, and that's what, with the surveyor and everything else, to see if it would work. And then we'd come back and then we'd get public comment. So that was my understanding.
Well, I don't want to cut you off, but there is a misunderstanding. Nobody lied to you on purpose. We did have a grant back when we were doing those meetings that the grant writer had written a general description of a plan to get a grant. We held off on using the grant while I did those meetings to try to see if we could get public, what do we think? We got mostly negative, and so we canceled the grant and gave it back because we never got enough public support for the idea to go forward. That was always the plan. Back when we were having those meetings, we already had the grant. We just agreed not to use it until we got enough public input to decide what to do. So there was a plan put forward by a grant writer to get the grant, but we never followed through on it, other than the surveying, I think, was the only thing that they did to decide if we even wanted to pursue it. But then we did go out and have those couple of meetings and pursued throughout the last year. We've gotten public input from people up the river, and I still think it's a good idea, but obviously the public did not. And so we decided, in the best interest of the public, we would drop the whole grant and return it.
And I have a question on that too, because you referenced in the meeting and Colleen referenced in the return of the grant that the public needs to be educated. And so I'd like you to elaborate more on that, because I honestly don't feel that...
Did I reference that?
Dave did.
Okay.
I honestly don't feel that the public needs to be educated on why we need a field. I think that our board needs to understand, and I think you do, that the public overwhelmingly opposes developing recreational facilities to appease people that don't live in our county, that don't live in our state. Especially spending money, because, correct me if I'm wrong, we've already spent $2,700 on surveying. Who knows how many hours of county employees' labor and time has been spent on this. And then you factor in that myself and the other property owners would have leased that field every year at $1,000 a year. So there's $3,000 now of lost revenue that we've sunk into the field parking lot.
Well, this
So-
is where you and I have always agreed to disagree. I think that the public needs to be further educated that we still have a problem. Whether or not this is the solution, I don't know. I'm moved more your direction in our discussions on that. We still have a problem. That's what the public needs to be educated in. We have all these visitors expending all these taxpayer resources every summer in law enforcement and trash. We still need some way to recoup our losses like a paid parking lot would have done. Obviously, the public has not been for that, the majority of the public. And so that's probably not the answer. But I still feel like we need to educate. Like we're still, if we do nothing, every taxpayer in the county will continue to pay for the extra expenses of law enforcement and trash as examples up the river. I just don't know what we should do.
One suggestion that has been very common that I've received, and I know you have because we discussed it in the River Rat meeting, is sort of like we have our recreational use sticker program, implementing something like that for out-of-state and out-of-county people. Everybody that I've talked to, because people think, well, we can have a toll booth of some sort. That's not reasonable. That's not realistic. A sticker program, like we already have at the transfer station, is something that we're already using on a different level that we could certainly implement here.
And one of the problems with that is I've investigated all this on revenue with the county, and a sticker program, it has to go through the state of Idaho.
Okay.
In the state of Idaho, the legislators have kind of painted us in a corner to all we can receive is property taxes. And then, we do get tax sharing with the state on some of the sales tax, but that's through the state. The state gives us that. So we can't generate any other taxes other than that, or fees for service. Like our transfer station, that's a fee for a service.
Mm-hmm.
And so the river, I've looked into that, like RV stickers or motorcycle stickers and things like that. They've taken away our snowmobile sticker program, and they brought it into the state because just because of that reason, because we do not have the authority to tax other than property taxes. And so we're trying to get our legislatures to open that up for other revenue options that the state or the counties can go forward on. And it's been a big problem. We can't even go out and do a hotel tax like the cities do, because it would be nice to do like an RV tax up there on the RV parking lots or the RV lots, because you can, they can charge the customer and pay a county tax, but we can't even do that. So we're kind of stuck. And one of the things is with our revenue is, logging. Logging was a big part of our revenue. And we're losing SRS funds, which that 25% we used to get from the sale of timber came into our roads and our schools. So, and then instead of that, they gave us SRS funding. So now we're losing that. So we're kind of in a problem with Shoshone County, because our taxes, your taxes, our taxes are only, the county makes $5 million towards our budget every year off of property taxes, and our budget is $17 million. So the rest of that is grants, federal funding. We get the PILT money and things like that. So we are looking at other revenue options, and that would be a good idea if we could somehow. Washington makes people pay a tax to go into their forests.
Oh, and that's what I was going to say, because I recently they've increased it from $50 a year to $65 a year. For Washington State residents, and I was just thumbing through the comments of a CREM article, and people are like, "I guess we're going to Idaho."
See, and that's
yeah.
what happens because we're free.
Right.
So it turns out we may not even be able to charge a parking lot fee because it could only go to the parking lot. It couldn't go to the dumpsters and the police, which is our whole intention in the first place. So
Yeah, because I've talked to Kootenai County, and Kootenai County it's kind of like how they have their boat launches.
Mm-hmm.
Well, their boat launch fees or can't go anywhere but in the Parks and Rec area to fund that boat launch, and it has to go to that. It can't go to the general fund or anything else. So, we're just
So it turns out that idea might not have worked anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But we got the public opinion part, and I
And
still
we're
think we have a
always
problem.
open to
I just
more
don't know what
suggestions.
the solution is anymore.
Yeah, because based on what you're saying, it sounds like only the state could implement some sort of a sticker program.
Which they would keep the funds from.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't. None of those would trickle back into our county.
We're trying.
It would take a change, I think, in
it would take
legislation.
a change in legislation to try. So, but one of the problems I know we all have is the parking up in the river, because people are parking on the side of the road and things like that. And I don't know if that's going to be more enforcement or. And, we talked about maybe getting the Forest Service to do something because it's their land. They're the ones that are, they're going to see their land. So maybe they can open up something on their end to help quell that problem.
Right.
Instead of us trying to find areas that we have that are small and not in the right area. They have all that land up there that.
Sure.
So
I think stiffer penalties and being quicker on the draw to start towing vehicles that are illegally parked would get the message out. That's quicker than anything else. So,
with you guys living on the river, how's the trash? I mean, is it
in the river?
in the river? And I mean,
We're noticing a little bit more
more.
cans and stuff in. We send the kids out to clean it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are noticing more. And
I don't know. We've owned that property up there for 20 years, and that's just become a norm for me to clean trash out of the river.
Okay.
So that's what we do on our rafting trips. We clean trash out of the river.
since you asked that question, I think it's really important too to know we live there, we really take care of it. When you get a bunch of people coming in that don't live here, whether it's for parking or whatever, they don't care. So they're throwing their beer cans, they're throwing all the trash out, and that part's hard to watch.
Mm-hmm. I know, it's just, you know, the area's getting to be, people are finding the area.
Mm-hmm.
We have the same problem over in the Calder and Avery area. It's just, we just got to learn how to manage it with less funds. I mean, it's just,
I still feel that if we could find a way to make the tourists pay, A, some of them might not come, which would be fine, and B, we might get a different kind of tourist. But obviously, if we can only use the parking lot money for parking lots, then we can't use it for what we wanted anyway. So that's why we gave the grant back, because primarily because the public input was negative.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, because that's all I've not had any interaction with anybody that was, well, with the exception of being at the River Rats meeting with the guy at the fly shop.
Yeah.
He thought it was a great idea. I was like, well, of course you do. I mean, you stand to gain financially from this, but everybody else that I've spoken to up there is very staunchly opposed to it. So
it's dead for now, and we've given the grant back.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just think it's the location. Great idea, but it's the wrong location. I mean, what they're going to get out of their car with kayaks, tubes, whatever, ice chests, and where are they going to go? They're going to walk along that little strip of the road. There's no bike path. There's no, let's say you're going to set up a truck in a, like the campground up there does. They can take them up, but how long is that going to last? And the county can't, say that's always going to be there. So then getting out of the river, that's all private property from the big campground at the Steel Bridge there all the way. That's all private property. People are going to be they're going to be all over there trying to get out.
And that's what, on what you're saying, because that was another concern that had this come to fruition was, I can't count how many times, and this happens often. People will like come up on my bank and just come into camp, just walk into camp at like right at dark. And I've driven these people upriver to where their vehicles are, and my thoughts were with this parking lot would have to be, it'd have to be closed somehow, and people would be stranded there after dark with cold kids. And it's, I don't know, like I said before, it's just it's got a lot of problems, unless it was just a wide open public parking lot somewhere. And that's something else too. I mean, there's those 2 lots down there by Chats. I don't know why that doesn't get just developed into parking lots. I mean, they're open lots and they're in a commercial area. And if Dawn's gonna be driving these people up the river anyway, what difference does it make if she picks them up here or a mile up the road? And these are already developed parking lots.
Yeah, they're behind the, it's Kootenai County lots, is that right?
Yeah, no, show them the 2 FEMA lots behind the coffee shop there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then there's I don't know.
And then there's a couple more lots at the restaurant there that we go to in Calder, or in Kootenai County has some parking lots behind that restaurant. It's right on the river.
Oh, really? I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Down at Cataldo.
Yes, Cataldo, yeah. But I think people don't want to float that area. The river is slow, but I mean, still, I know Kootenai County wouldn't mind, because that's all that is a big parking lot.
But the 2 lots down below are completely wide open. They're not fenced. So if somebody did come in late, their car's not going to be trapped.
Yep.
So, and like I said, that's currently all commercial property in that area already. So it's not like you're going to be intruding on somebody's homes or
Which was another issue with parking lots up the river, is no matter where we put it, we're in somebody's backyard, and that's a problem. So yeah, we saw all the problems. I still think we have a problem to solve. I just don't think we've found the solution. Apparently, every time we find a new state law that we, try to solve. So we still got a problem, but this might not be the solution that we hoped it was. It's not on the board anymore.
Okay.
If that changes,
I would call Joe.
okay.
But yeah, it's not on the board. Until we get a bunch of public comments to the other side, I'm still working on the problem. I just looking for other solutions.
Yeah.
Moving the parking lot doesn't solve anything. We still got the problem that what good would it be if it can't generate an income anyway? So
I was just thinking alleviate parking problems up the river.
down there, I see what your point, but we had some folks that came in a couple months ago with the idea of moving it up the river, the parking lot up the river. Same problem. We're in somebody's backyard. Same thing. You're
There
right.
is a little sign about this big that's right on that. Now that I think about it, right on that pole where the gas station is.
Yeah.
You turn and it says parking. With an
Yeah.
arrow pointing at it.
Yeah.
But nobody sees it. I mean, because it's just
It's a good
blends in with the
Yeah.
mess there and all the chaos going on there.
That's a good point.
And it's gravel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's already a parking lot.
Literally,
Yeah.
2 parking lots right there. So I don't know if you guys lease those out or not. I don't know if those.
I don't know.
I don't either. Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's all I have.
Okay. Any further questions from here? Any questions?
No, thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you very
Thanks for
much.
coming.
Appreciate coming in.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.